Craig. We have now finally the Mercedes 3D from the Spanish Grand Prix. I say finally because the amount of stuff they had on that car probably for sure was the most complicated 3D animation we've ever had to do on Motorsport TV here. But we have it thanks to Dean Wright and his team. Ironically, the car didn't have what we thought it was going to have, i.e. the lightweight gearbox at the back, right?
This is it. The big rumour pre-Barcelona was that they were going to be running a lighter gearbox by up to 5 kilos was the rumours, and potentially the car could be shorter as well, because as we know, the Mercedes runs a very long wheelbase setup. From what I can understand, and I could never get a categoric answer, even speaking to James Allison, it's like, oh, did you update the gearboxes? Oh, you'll still have to find out. And I think from speaking to people, if there is a weight saving in the gearbox, it was in the hundreds of grams rather than in the kilos. And as far as I can see, again, I can't see a wheelbase change on the car. So that change was very minimal, but then pretty much everything else on the car has changed. So it's unusual to see a car with so many changes in between races, but equally what was already a very complicated car now goes beyond complicated. I mean, there's just so many elements to this car, and we can't cover every change that was made to the car here this weekend, but this is probably the most complicated F1 car that's ever run. It's pretty incredible.
Well, let's have a look at this animation and see all these bits on the car.
Okay, so first changes first were the nose cone. You can see here you've got a kind of a conically shaped nose cone and the old camera pods. Now what they've done is they've actually narrowed the nose across its entire length, so it's almost parallel, as you can see there. It's got a very unusual appearance when you see the nose front on. This obviously has required a new crash test. It's a new structure underneath. Probably not the most important aero thing that we've see on the car. These bits will come up in a moment, but it's all part of this change in the structure and the airflows around the car. So if we just step on, the camera pods are now mounted, as you can see, on these little legs.
Yeah.
Now there were regulation changes last year to stop these kind of periscope style supports for the camera pods. They're not, again, not the most important aero thing, but the whole structure of the air going around the front of the car all works as one. Right. So little changes in lots of areas make a big impact. So these are unique. We've not seen these on anyone else. Bound to be copied, as all these sort of things are. Then as we step on, we come to what is probably one of the biggest changes, which is underneath the nose. Now Mercedes, like most teams, run these what we call front turning vanes, these hanging vanes under the nose. But these have gone and now been replaced by what I would describe as a snowplow. I spoke to the team about this and says, what do you call that part? And they call it the Super Ted cape. Now, if anyone remembers the cartoon character Super Ted that had a big cape, a sort of Superman thing, that's what they're calling this. And again, it looks very much like a cape hanging from beneath the nose. And lots of people have looked at this and come up with lots of very clever explanations of what it is. Really, all this is just a means to create very big vortices trailing off the back edge of this vane, and this then goes through the rest of the barge boards and creates a very powerful flow structure to go around the car, which is what all these new barge boards and turning vanes are about. It's quite a blunt, aggressive way of doing things compared with the quite fine and detailed turning vanes that we have, but this is quite important.
And here, this would be the first sort of trademark James Allison impact on the team, would you say? James
whether it was a James impact, I don't know, but certainly this will be one of the first big updates that the car, you know, we've seen little changes to the car, but this is one big, complete structural change to the airflow around the car, so this would be something that
And when do you think they signed off on that? Do you think it was after they realised how quick the Ferrari was this year, or...?
They probably had lots of these ideas in mind since testing through the start of the year, with the ability for someone like Mercedes to bring new parts. Despite the sheer number, I mean, literally every bodywork surface is different on this car. This was probably only signed off around Melbourne time. You know, sort of maybe 4 weeks ago, they were able to sign off parts from the wind tunnel and CFD and then get them into production and onto the car this quickly.
Probably faster than any other team, I was
going to say. Faster than most other teams. Yeah. I mean, there's not many other teams that can support the rate of development that Mercedes do. Yeah. Red Bull, maybe not so much this year. I don't think Red Bull's production is the issue. It's much more their ability to design and sign off parts. But certainly we see teams like McLaren able to turn parts around very quickly. Yeah. And it really separates the well-resourced teams to the lesser-resourced teams and how quickly they can turn.
Anyway, getting back to it all.
Getting back to it all. So this creates vortices trailing off of this, and this then hooks the barge board. So if we spin the car around now, just see that just spin out of shot, we'll see the new barge boards, which were already very large, very complicated, lots of vanes and slots in them. They've actually made the main board much larger here, as you can see here. So that again will have a large vortex spilling off that blue line at the top, which goes around the car and directs the airflow to the diffuser and to the area between the tyre and the diffuser to help the whole rear aero of the car work. It's not about creating downforce at the front of the car, it's about getting the back of the car to work much better. And then down below we have these little kind of bunny ears. I mean, I don't know what the technical term is. These little kind of periscopy stalks coming up.
Is that your turn then?
That's my turn, because we, back in the late 2000s, if you remember, Honda had them elephant ears at the front of the car, and these look visually very similar, very small in a different position. Again, more complication, more edges and surfaces on the barge boards to break the airflow up and to send it exactly where Mercedes wants. So it's this whole area has become hugely complicated, way more than anything else we see anywhere on the grid. No team looks like they're going to be in a position to catch up to this level of complexity. The other big visual change was at the back of the car. So if you now spin the car around again and have a look at the shark fin. They have run a very truncated shark fin so far, sometimes no shark fin at all, sometimes with a little cooling duct. They've now extended it to create a full-length shark fin, as you can see here with the blue line. It's now attaching to that T-wing at the back, just giving them a bit more surface area, which keeps the car a bit more stable in the faster turns, obviously very important with their long wheelbase. And the tendency of this car to be quite snappy on corner entry, that's probably helping to calm things down, along with just the improvement in the aero generally.
But they did run a full-length one in testing, I think, did they not? They tried various lengths.
They did try various lengths and various styles, but they never had one that extended all the way back to almost the maximum permitted, which is what we see here.
And do you think that'll then stay on the car now?
I think that will stay on the car for the majority of races. I wouldn't be surprised not to see it at places like Monaco and Hungary where it's not necessary. But certainly as we're coming into those sort of quite fast aero-dependent European circuits, we'll see that stay on the car much, much more.
Wow, so there's a lot to take in there. And of course, the good news is for the 1,000 or so people that work at Mercedes, engines and chassis, is that the car was quick. If you look at the way the car was in Melbourne relative to Ferrari, and you look at where they are now in Barcelona, where they were in Barcelona, Lewis was quick basically all weekend. He's on the pole and he won the race. Yes, of course, Ferrari were very near, but you've got to say great work from Mercedes to come up with a package that has obviously found them a little bit of performance there, and that's very impressive to see.